Bye, guys.
All right, we'll start with a pledge of the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, I'd like to welcome everybody to the March 18th, 2021 board meeting. Can I get a motion to approve the village board meeting minutes from March 4th, 2021?
Moved.
Megan and Andy, any changes, corrections, questions? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Carried. Citizens' comments. Anybody who watches the meeting who has any questions on it, send us a email to Village Hall and we will respond to any question you have as soon as we get the question. We have a special presentation tonight from the Ambulance Corps. Why don't you folks introduce yourselves and tell us what you came here for.
Sure, thank you, Mayor. My name is Bob Pagano, and I've been with the Ambulance Corps as a volunteer board member for the last 5 years. Before I dive in, is everybody hearing me okay?
Yep.
Okay, great. I know that we were given a short time slot, which with technology issues, it's a little bit shorter, but I'll try to do my best to catch you guys up, still be on the same schedule, if that's okay.
Thank you.
I'm going to present my screen and hopefully that will go just as smooth. Oh, Mayor Clark, it says the host is disabled screen sharing.
Share. All right.
Oh, that looks like it's your screen.
Okay.
Anyway, I can get the capabilities.
Now there was some under security. I think there's something you have to do. Oh boy. Hold on 1 second. What do I have to hit to allow them to show something on the screen?
You have to enable participant screen sharing.
Yeah, they do share screen. I think we went on here before.
Right here. Can you click that?
Yep, that seems to work.
Okay, thank you. I had to call in my technician.
All right, can everybody see the first screen all right?
Yes.
Mhm.
All right, great, thank you. All right, so kind of an executive summary of why we're here. GBAC is obviously in the EMS industry, and we're facing a lot of challenges to that industry that will make sustainability a challenge in the next maybe 5 to 10 years. And so we're exploring the opportunity to create various ambulance districts within the town of Lysander and Van Buren. We've already shared this presentation with both town boards, but we wanted an opportunity to share it with the village, just given the impact and how great you guys have been to us over the years. So we're gonna dive in, go over a history of GBAC and who we are. It's not gonna be too boring, I promise. Second, we're going to talk about the services that GBAC provides the community. Then we're going to wrap up with challenges to EMS, and then finally our sustainability and where we are. Before we dive into that, I want to make it very clear that GBAC is operating very strong, and we are not in any risk of going out of business like so many other agencies are. We just think that we're at a point where we do need to consider that, and so that's why we're here. So here are our leaders, and I'll actually let Mark introduce himself. Mark.
Thanks, Bob. So my name is Mark Procopio. I've been with GBAC since 2004. I've served as president of the organization since 2010. I am a village resident, and I've lived in Baldwinsville all my life. I actively volunteer still as an EMT on the ambulance, and really enjoy that. I'm here to represent the organization. So.
Great, thank you. And Jim?
Yes, hello. I'm mostly we know all one another pretty well, but I'm Jim Hogan, and I've been with GBC now exactly 30 years. And my wife reminds me when I go to work every morning that that's longer than most of the people who are alive that work for me. But they're a great group of people. And for the last 8 years, I've been the director. So again, I want to thank everybody for giving us the time. And I also want to introduce Chris Cullen, which a lot of you know. Chris is one of our supervisors. And I'm having the pleasure, June 1st, I'm retiring. So Chris and I have been working together for the last 6 years pretty closely. And over the last year, so we're preparing, Chris is going to take over to be the director June 1st. So, and Chris is here now.
Chris, do you want to share anything?
Sure. So like Jim said, my name is Chris Cullen. I'm currently an operations supervisor at GBAC. I've been there since January of 2013. Have worked pretty close with Jim throughout my time there, and have gotten to and look forward to continuing to do that.
Thanks, Chris. Not here today is Dr. Matt Sarsfield. He's our medical director. He's actually an emergency room doctor, and so to have him participating in our organization is fantastic. He was recognized as the 2019 Medical Director of the Year for Central New York EMS. Chris Cullen was also recognized for the EMS Provider of Central New York, as well as all of New York State in 2019 as well. So we have some super talented individuals in our organization that really do care about what they do and our community.
And Dr. Sarsfield lives in the village also.
Correct. Our board is made up of a lot of people from the industry, as well as different facets of business and industry. And that gives us really a great opportunity to run the organization, not as a not-for-profit, which it is, but more as, you know, how would a business really want to run and make really good decisions. So you can see we have Alex, who represents HR. Lisa is our treasurer, is a CPA. I'm also a CPA, helping out with some of the business decisions. And we have Michael Bryant, who's also helping out with some legal advice. So you know, a super strong board, in my opinion, and one that I'm very proud to be a part of. So GBAC, you know, this slide does a really good job of just summarizing kind of the highlights of what our organization does. We are a not-for-profit, and we do respond to over 4,000 calls a year, which is quite a few a day. We do have a staff, or excuse me, a crew available 24/7. And sometimes we have 2 up to 3 crews ready to meet the demands of our community. As many of you know, we were founded in 1962. And when we started, it was purely a volunteer organization. Obviously, over the years, we've had to move to paid staff, but we do still have some volunteers, and we're very proud of that. As you can see here, you know, we do have that healthy mix of volunteers, full-time and part-time staff to keep our operations running. And we have a very large kind of fleet of vehicles. We have 5 ambulances in rotation, and you've all seen our very pretty garage bay in our building right down on Albert Palmer Street. And really what the ambulance does to you is we bring the ER to you. You know, these individuals who are providing the services are really acting as the emergency room and really at some times are in contact with the hospital you're on the way to administer life-saving treatment and medicine. We are able to respond to the community from call to door in 8 minutes, which is actually really impressive when you look at how large of a community we have. And really, we've tried to be a part of this community. We've done numerous standbys at Beaver Lake, the Polar Bear Plunge, you know, any activity, we really try to be there and represent and provide for our community. When we look at who we serve, a majority is obviously the town of Lysander, Van Buren, and the village. We do have some small territory in the town of Geddes, and we do have to go on mutual aid calls. But to summarize it, it's really the school district of Baldwinsville. It is 100 square miles, which is extremely large, as I mentioned earlier. And we cover part or all of 10 fire districts. And by the way, guys, if you want to jump in or have any questions or comments, feel free. This is absolutely meant to be a discussion, and I'm happy to either answer your question or at least punt it over to some of the professionals that are on the call. So moving on to part 2, which is challenges we face, and this is definitely not GBAC. This is all of EMS, especially in the area, is we're running into fewer volunteers, rising costs, uncompensated care, and just an increased demand in our service. And maybe that is a little bit more Beeville centric, but we'll hop into that in a minute. So, as we mentioned earlier, GBAC was founded with about 80 volunteers at its max. Over the years, the training and kind of necessity of that training has become a little bit overwhelming for expectations to have any volunteer participate. So here we have, what that training is presented on the screen. And it's really just not an attractive volunteer opportunity anymore for the community. You would really have to want to do this in order to do it. In the same token, we're experiencing fewer providers, fewer EMS providers. And really it's because the amount of education required is almost equivalent to becoming a nurse. However, the pay differential is significantly less. I think, the average EMT starts out maybe about $15 an hour. So it's about $30K a year. We've obviously been trying to win over good providers, but we can't obviously play the wage game. We'll all run out of money. So we've been trying to get creative in some of the incentives. I list those here. The second challenge we face is higher costs. These are our fiscal 19 and 18 increases. And this is our audited financials. Our fiscal year ends in April. So this is just before the pandemic. So these are actually pretty good comparable numbers. And so you can see here that grant funding is down. Our vehicles, and this is just because all medical equipment keep increasing. As I mentioned earlier, the wages are continuing to tick up. And inversely, the volunteers are going down. And then also we saw a large impact on our donations. And a lot of this had to do with the change in tax law and the incentives being removed for some of those charitable donations. Our biggest problem in our industry is if we do not transport, we do not get paid by the insurance companies. And so if you see over here on the left, about 30% of our calls, so 30% of that 4,000 number I mentioned earlier, go to our crews being deployed, possibly providing some on-scene care, but then inevitably the patient does not want to go. And so, we have to kind of put our tail between our legs and mosey on home. So, that's definitely a large, sunk cost to our business and something that, we would like to see change, but we know it's not going to happen there. So that's a big part of our uncompensated care. Our next is Medicare and Medicaid. Those barely break even or we lose money on those calls. And, our hands are tied there. We are forced to write off about $150K a year, which is about the cost of an ambulance. Again, as it says there, hands are tied. So that's it. We do have a high cost of readiness. Like I said earlier, we try to have 1 to 3 rigs available to meet the demands of the community. However, just those costs of keeping the people at the station, whether there's a call or not, is obviously an investment. And we hope to make it back with going on calls, but sometimes that does not happen. And then lastly, one of the largest kind of expenses to GBAC, and it's very sad because it impacts a lot of us and me personally, is the amount of overdoses that our community faces. And again, that is a very large cost to us. And obviously, as you can see, some of these overlap each other, but it's kind of the whole picture of this uncompensated care. Now, I know a lot of people understand that hospitals do get reimbursements from state and federal grants for patients who are unable to pay. Unfortunately, EMS does not have the same luxuries. We have no mode of collecting or applying for any of those types of programs. And then lastly, and this is specific to GBAC, is we're noticing a really large increase in the demand for our services. Here I'm listing some of the projects and some of the items that have recently or will have an impact on our organization. And we need to make sure that we're balancing the right staff levels and right medical equipment levels to meet that demand. And so that obviously creates, anytime you have change, you have an opportunity to mismanage costs and revenue. So, it's something that we just need to be very careful in how we approach our deployment of our resources. And then the last section is on sustainability. EMS has had a rough time in New York State. Over the last 5 years, there's been over 100 agencies that have closed their doors. I don't have 2020 data yet, but I'm sure it's right in the 20s to 30, especially coming off of COVID, where a lot of people were choosing not to go to the hospital until it was very late. And, it just reduced our call volume for sure. On the right here, we have just some examples of neighboring areas that have either received or needed to receive kind of emergency support from the community to keep their doors open. And some of these closures that are noted on the left are highlighted on the right. Like I mentioned earlier, GBAC is doing fine by all means. The top line here is our operating revenue. And you can see that some of those new developments and maybe an aging population has driven an increase in our services for the last 5 years. And that's a good thing for us. It provides us that opportunity to charge the medical insurance companies and again, grow that top line. What's concerning though is the bottom line, operating income, is not growing at the same rate. And in fact, you see some dips here and there. And so those are the things that we have to consider, when we think about how to put on new shifts and what investments we're going to make, whether that's in human support or whether that's medical devices. And so that's kind of all I had today regarding our next steps. I have some other slides in the appendix if you guys have any questions, and I think maybe those might support it, but I definitely trimmed down this presentation to meet your guys' timeline, and I'm 1 minute over, so I apologize for that.
That wasn't hard and fast. That was just a so what you're hoping to do is to convince the two towns to add a revenue stream via taxes.
Correct. We spoke with both boards, and the general consensus is they were in favor of exploring that opportunity. They understand the value we bring and want to be able to support us. And so we're going to be working with their attorneys to see what next steps are. We're not looking to raise a whole lot between the two towns. Really the way I explained it to them is this is a really good opportunity to intersect two different points. One is obviously we need a little bit of support. We have some expenses coming up that we're just want to be prepared for. And second, as I mentioned, with the growing population, there's an opportunity to put an additional rig in service overnight. I don't think the revenue's there yet. And so obviously we've been a little bit hesitant to do that. However, if we were to, receive additional funding from the community, we'd be able to put that rig into service right away. So, I think we're looking, to raise just a very nominal amount, just to have that kind of backstop if needed.
It's very interesting because my parents were life members of the ambulance corps. I think there's a plaque up on the wall down at the corps room.
Yes.
Yep.
The fundraising issue, when my dad was involved, he and Joe Lafredo, who I think was fairly active until just recently, they used to walk around the village with coffee cans and go door to door asking for people to donate to the ambulance corps. And one night they do northwest part of the village and the northeast the next night, and they go on the other side of the river and they go. Sometimes they didn't get too far because people decided, well, come on in and have a beer. And the fundraising trip got cut short. But it's really amazing to see from the day when everybody was a volunteer to the high class operation that you have now, and because you have to. I know that I feel pretty comfortable that if I had an emergency, I would be very happy to see your rig rolling up to my house to take care of me. And so I hope people understand. And I never understood the difficulty that you have when you take somebody to the hospital and you have whatever the bill might be, how almost none of the ways available covers all that bill. And I saw you had the number 150,000 that you write off every year. That's pretty significant. I don't think people understand that. I think they assume that everybody that goes, you get paid what you're supposed to get paid. And so I'm glad you came in and highlighted some of that stuff for us.
Right. And then Mayor Chuck will remember, Chuck, years ago, to be on the ambulance, there were great people, but you had to go to the Red Cross and take a first aid class, and then you were ready to rock and roll. Today, the state of New York mandates that an area the size of Beeville, you have to have paramedic service. That's it. You're going to do it. And then, like Bob explained, now to go to Upstate University to be a paramedic is pretty equivalent to be an RN. And when was the last time that we knew anybody who said they were going to nursing school, and when they graduated, they were going to be a volunteer nurse? So,
right.
So it's a great thing that the care is there, but the challenge is when Chuck and I took a first aid class, that doesn't swing it anymore.
Are the towns proposing to enter into written agreements with GBAC, or have you gotten that far in your discussions yet?
What we'd like to do, most agencies like us all across New York State, we want to copy also like Marcellus ambulance for the town of Marcellus. they created an ambulance tax district. So it's not money coming out of the town's budgets. It's a separate line item like the library. And we want to kind of copy what Marcellus has done. That's our strategy. Right, that answers your question.
Anybody have?
So they haven't talked to you about entering into a contractual arrangement with them as part of the creating of the district?
Well, we have, yeah, would be a contractual agreement, but actually setting up an ambulance tax district.
Yeah, we're still in the early stages of that. We presented to them about 2 weeks ago. And so, we're still exploring what that looks like, obviously with their lawyers and trying to get what's best for all parties involved.
And do their proposals exclude the portions of the village relative to their district or include them, or do you know?
It would include.
I think it would include.
Okay, so they've said that.
Yes.
Okay.
We're very proud to be the community ambulance. We've been the community's ambulance since 1962. We still take a lot of pride in that. Like I said, I'm a village resident. I grew up in Baldwinsville. I volunteer with the agency because I care about the community, and I think a lot of our sentiment, even from our paid staff, is very much the same. We're very proud of this community and to be part of it. And we want to make sure that we're sustainable. We want to make sure that we're there when somebody in our community needs an ambulance, and that's important to us. So that's what we're looking to accomplish. We just could probably use a little bit of help, and we're just trying to be prepared for that. That's all.
Mr. Mayor, and I will say, I was a member for 15 years there, and things were clearly different back then. We had more volunteers and we had very paid staff, but they're absolutely right. The training is just takes up all the time, and now they're majority paid and they just do a fantastic job. I'm not sure what the answer is, but well, I'll tell you, that's all we see is those ambulances going down the road during the day and all the time. And so I hope things work out for you, but they're certainly a fantastic organization.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I'd be very, very scared to think if they weren't around. It'd be very scary. So.
I want to add a thank you from the senior center for the many times you come over there, and we know that when you get there, there's going to be good professional service, and the folks are treated with respect and dignity and provided good care. So I just want to add my thanks as someone that has seen you many, many times come and respond to the needs of our older adults in the community. So thank you for that.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Any more questions or?
Yeah, so just, Mayor, we just wanted to make the village aware of what our plan was. And
because some people forget, but I know you folks don't, because Mark reminded me that he knew that our village residents are both our town residents too. So when the town does something, it affects people in the village also. And so I'm glad you came, so our village people can feel included in understanding what's happening. And it's better if people hear things from the horse's mouth, so to speak, and understand what you're talking about and what the goal is, and helps them understand better and accept it better, and actually encourage it to happen. So hats off to you guys for coming in tonight. We appreciate it. We're always happy that you're around. Certainly appreciate the job you do. And I hope we can get the help you need to keep this thing going for as long as most of us will be around here anyways. So,
thank you. We
All right.
appreciate the opportunity.
yep. And you're more than welcome if you want to hang around and watch the rest of our meeting, but if you don't, you can, I guess this is the time you can check out, but we'll just continue on with our meeting, and I will be talking with both the supervisors and to see if they, to understand that they're going to get encouragement from me to follow through with you guys. So,
Great.
I appreciate that. All right, thank you again.
thanks for coming in.
Take care, guys.
Yep.
Bye.
Okay, we'll move on to, we don't have any citizens' comments. We'll move on to trustees' comments. We'll start with Mr. Dryden. You're still,
Agenda items only. Thank you.
okay. All that work.
Yeah.
Megan.
I just want to remind people that the Volunteer Center is still accepting nominations for the Man and Woman Volunteer of the Year. Nominations can be submitted to the Volunteer Center by letter through, you can fax it, you can email it, you can regular mail it, you can do whatever you need to get it in, but nominations are due by the end of next week.
Okay. Very good. Anything else, Meg?
Yeah, just a comment. I was pleased to hear about the well, I wasn't pleased to hear about the incident, but an incident occurred last week in the village, and the person who was relaying the information to me specifically commented on the responding officer and how professional and supportive he was of the people who were involved in the incident. And so I just wanted to pass that along, that the troops are continuing to serve us well and make us proud.
Very good. Nice to hear that. Okay, we'll move on to Mike Shepard.
The agenda is fine with me. Thank you.
Okay. Mark Wilder.
Hello, Mr. Mayor, Board. I'm going to request an executive session this evening to update the board on the status of a contract negotiation. I'll try to keep it under an hour.
All right, that's item E under new business. Move down to the bottom row. Bruce Stebbins.
I have a list.
Okay, well, that'll move the executive session further down to the E. Okay, go ahead.
Well, first couple of things I'm going to mention won't go on the agenda.
Okay.
I wanted to mention, I was informed today that yesterday, John Weeks passed away at age 96. And whether folks in the immediate Ballsville area know him, he was a giant of a small man, small in stature, but he was one of the people who established the environmental movement in the state of New York. He, working for DEC, established the first environmental center, the Rogers Environmental Center down in Sherburne. Then he came up in the early 70s to Central New York Environment, Nature Center. What were they called then? Centers for Nature Education. Worked out at Beaver Lake Nature Center for a couple of years. Out there, established the school visitation program, really got that going at Beaver Lake before moving over to Baltimore Woods and opening up that facility. After several years there, he turned up at Oswego State University, where they created Rice Creek Biological Station. And you may have heard him on WRVO doing the nature of things once a week. And he was also a very talented artist. Somebody who was very quiet, soft-spoken, but had a major impact on a lot of our lives that we don't even know he did. So he just want to mention him in passing.
Very nice guy.
Second thing is, I attended at the mayor's request today, the Tree City, New York State Tree City annual meeting. And I must admit, I was not thrilled to be asked to go, but I took more notes and came away with some good things that I hope to be able to utilize as a member of the tree committee in the village of Baldwinsville. Now to the business side of things. I need to request a motion to establish a stand-in rate to be determined for water plant operators in the absence of our DPW foreman. And I would like to also have an item requesting a motion to approve the purchase of a new Caterpillar 930M front-end loader off the county bid at a contract price of $139,804, including trade-in, noting this is a budgeted item. And the final thing I want to ask is a motion to establish a bid opening date of April 12th, 2021 for the electrical update to the Kansas Street well plant. Other than that, I think the agenda looks fine.
Okay, so that's item G, and the executive session becomes item H. And push down.
Mo's holding her head.
All right. Anything else, Bruce?
No, I'll stop.
Okay. Ruth Seco.
Just the agenda, thank you.
Okay. Let's see here. I got a couple things. Okay. I did get a letter from somebody today, and it's not the first time I've heard about this. And so I'm going to make a phone call to the post office, but people are unhappy about the fact that there's no parking spots at the post office. And then when you get inside, there's nobody in there because it's all the workers, and they've got extra workers now working, and there's no place for them to park. So they park out in the front so that people who have to come in and maybe run in and grab a book of stamps or something quick, there's sometimes almost no place to park. I'm just going to make a friendly call and ask them if they've thought about having them park somewhere else. They can park in our lot. It's not that far away. Weather's getting better. But I hear that a lot. Let's see. We have been informed that we will be getting stimulus money. You may have seen the amounts listed for Van Buren and Lysander. The deal is, apparently it was too complicated to list all the villages individually to start with. But now when the Treasury gets ready to send out checks, they'll look at what Van Buren's getting, see what percentage of Van Buren people live in the village, and we'll get that percentage of their money. Van Buren was 1 point something million, Lysander's 2 point something million. We'll get a percentage, which could be $400,000 or $500,000 by the time we get done with the percentages of our residents that live inside the village for those towns. And then we had a session the other day with Senator Schumer, and he said that they're really working hard to make sure that the state doesn't say, well, you got money from the federal government, so we're going to cut back what we give you, and just because they feel that they gave New York State more than enough money, that they shouldn't have to do that. And we'll get paid that money, however much it is, half this year and half next year. So we'll be able to figure that into next year's budget for certain things. Can't just use it for just anything. I mean, we can't build a swimming pool with it. But we can pay back the money that we spent this year on COVID expenses. We can also put back into our general fund the money that we did not make, say for concerts that we had booked from Paper Mill Island, like I think it was $9,000, money that we came up short on the from the court fines, that we always count on, and sometimes it comes up short, but this was way shorter, so that we can take care of the costs that we had because of COVID. And then after that, there's some interesting things that you can use the money for. One of them is water infrastructure and sewer infrastructure. We obviously won't be spending too much money on sewer infrastructure. And just so you know, after talking to Frank Mento 3-4 weeks ago, whenever I talked to him, I still haven't heard anything from him. So they apparently are in no rush to get us to transform. And I know that some of you might remember the night we did get the WEP presentation, that we were basically told that they knew where every bit of sewer infrastructure was in our village, where every manhole cover was. And then we got a call 2 weeks ago, Chuck did, from somebody from WEP wanting to know if we could give them a map of where our stuff was, because they were going to need to know where all that stuff was. So somebody hadn't talked to somebody. They either don't have it and they just kind of stretch the truth a little, or they do have it and they haven't told everybody that they got it. Not everybody in the county is excited about it. Liverpool's not. Liverpool's in the same kind of situation we are. They've done a lot of work on their sewers, and they still have a pretty good fund balance, and they really don't want to turn it over and then have Liverpool taxpayers pay to fix the bad parts of the county. I didn't realize Fayetteville said that they were short $350,000. They were in the red because of repairs to sewers and stuff. The county gave them $200,000 to help offset. You know, you don't have to pay us $200,000 of that debt or whatever. And then they got some more money somewhere else, so they ended up breaking even. So it worked out good. But I have an email into the city, and I want to find out what their issue is and why they don't want to join up. And I was told that one of the issues was that they are really in debt, and the only way they think they can get any of it back is to keep the sewers for a while and increase the sewer charges and try to make some of that money back, and so they won't be so far in the hole. So there are other things involved in this stimulus. Restaurants can get some special help. There's going to be help for renters and mortgage help for homeowners. And there's also going to be some money set aside, PPP type money, for churches that took a hit during this. Get a thing telling people, any of you who are boaters, the canal will open May 21st at 7 o'clock in the morning, and it will close sometime in October. I was like trying to see if I can find it on this sheet. It's probably on the other sheet. October 13th will end the season. So if you're a boater, that's your season. There, some of you might have heard there was talk of Canal Corp creating a different body, or the state was going to create a different body to run the canal. And one of the ways they were going to save money was to cut back on the length of the season. That way they would less electricity they were using. They could lay off people, have shorter seasons for them. And there was a lot of objection from people along the canal who said, you know, the canal is crucial to our survival. You can't, and currently the running of the canal includes citizens, people who have businesses, people who are in governments. So they raised enough of a fuss that the Senate backed out, and it looks like the House is going to back out too, you know, the Assembly, so that when you have an issue and you speak up, sometimes the squeaky wheel gets the grease, and apparently that has happened. I did also get a notice that use of canal property, which mostly includes trails, that type of thing, was up 30% this past summer. We knew with COVID, people were doing more of that kind of stuff, walking, hiking, getting out and enjoying our beautiful countryside, and the canal said to a point of 30%, so up. So we talked John Mannion last night, the mayors did. He's our state senator, the position formerly held by John DeFrancisco. They're working hard trying to maintain the AIM funding, which is nice. The governor wants to cut it. We don't get a ton, but we do get some. And the NICOM and others have been trying to get that increased, because it really isn't. It's been the same number for more than, it's probably when Andy was mayor, it's probably the same number. I mean, it's been a while since there's been an increase in AIM funding, and now the governor wanted to cut it. Mannion said he helped write the bill, and they have a number for it. They're trying to get it in the committee to release restrictions on sewer funds. So that is gaining a little momentum. We'll see, hopefully, we hear something fairly soon that they at least are considering it. A lot of discussion about the legalizing of marijuana. There's a lot of people pushing for it for a number of reasons. There's a lot of concerns. It's very hard to police. You pull somebody over who's driving erratically, and there's no test to tell if they've been smoking pot. A lot of labor groups are very concerned that people that drive heavy equipment, how do we stop them from, smoking during their lunch hour and coming back high and then driving these, great big rigs around construction sites and driving tractor trailers and so on. And there's also concern about the revenue. How would a local municipality like Baldwinsville benefit by having something in there? Because the only money we would get would be a replacement of sales tax. And yet our police would have to be the ones, pulling people over, writing tickets. Our judge would have to be, dealing with that. And we would be getting virtually nothing for it. So it becomes like an unfunded mandate. So as simple as it looks, like people say, it's just easy to do it. It's not as easy as it sounds. So there is something in the way. I had heard this at the time of the last meeting, but I hadn't seen it for sure. But I've now since seen that the village lost a dedicated guy who did a lot of work. Ed McManus, Sue McManus's husband, passed away. Ed was involved in the Shacksboro and other historical type stuff around the village. Very active, kind of very aggressive at getting things done, and send out condolences to Sue and the family. Speaking, Bruce mentioned being at a Tree City USA thing. We have just got our notice that we've been certified again. It's now 35 years that we've been a Tree City USA. I think that's something to be pretty proud of. And I did get a letter from the DOT regarding a letter that I sent to them about the condition of Route 48 from the village line to the Four Corners. And it's pretty much as I expected. We will talk about it. We will get the Syracuse Metropolitan Traffic Council or whatever involved. They have to act on it. And so I'm going to make a phone call to them tomorrow and say, this didn't just happen last week. We've been complaining about this for years. It's in terrible shape. It's our main drag coming through the village. You've got to do something, and can't put it off for 2 or 3 years. It's just going to get worse and worse. So there's that. And I think that's it. No applause. But it's over. We'll move on to department heads.
Mr. Mayor, I did notice that the DOT was patching potholes on Syracuse Street, maybe in an attempt to make it look a little better when the inspector comes through. I don't know.
Yeah, or to stop the complaints for a little while anyways. All right, we'll move on to department heads. Our attorney, Bob Baldwin.
I'll stick with the agenda.
Okay. Codes office, Greg. You're muted.
Every time. I'll stick with the agenda tonight.
Okay, any more requests for wildlife in the village?
Had one yesterday for farm animals.
Can't have them, right?
No chickens, no ducks, no geese, or other farm animals.
Very good. All right, we'll move on to village clerk, Mo.
I just wanted to reiterate to everyone that the village taxes are due by April 1st without penalty. And you could put them in the Dropbox or pay online through the county website. Otherwise, another thing I just wanted to mention that Earth Day litter cleanup is scheduled for Friday, April 23rd and Saturday, April 24th. We'll have more information when it comes on the website. I'm not sure if we're giving out bags this year or anything like that, but check the website for more info. Otherwise, I will stick to the agenda.
Thanks, Mo. Move on to treasurer, Anna.
Yes, I just want to remind everyone that tonight's vouchers are the last vouchers that will be going under the 1920 budget year. Anything that you turn in after tonight will be on the new money for next year. I also want to mention that several of you have requested some encumbrances of last year's funds for projects that weren't completed. I believe I have the current list. I'm going to process it and type it all up and I pass it to the department heads and make sure that it's what you have requested. And I also will try to firm up some February figures and get them to you. They'll be tentative, but they will give you everyone an idea of where you pretty much stand. So if there are any further encumbrances that are needed, or if maybe you've requested an encumbrance and there's not enough funds there to have it, we will know that also. So I will try to get all that to you, but if any of you have questions, like, did I ask you for an encumbrance or whatever, just please let me know and I'll make sure it's on the list and make sure everything is in balance before we encumber it. And other than that, I'm just plugging away, trying to get caught up with everything and get our current year closed out as quick as I can.
Very good. Thanks, Anna.
Yep.
Move on to the senior center, Ruth Troy.
Just want to mention that this week we had a couple of events for St. Patrick's Day. One was hosted by our senior activity committee. That was on Tuesday and that went very well. And a huge thank you to the Rotary Club for providing the St. Patrick's corned beef and cabbage dinner for our folks. They had a drive up and also delivered many meals to the seniors out in the community. So thanks to the Rotary for that. It was very much appreciated and people enjoyed it. It was festive, greeting people, and some people had their cars decorated. So, you know, they were very happy about it. So thank you to the Rotary. Also, just I want to strongly encourage folks to get their COVID vaccine if they have not done so already. If you're having any difficulty at all accessing that, getting an appointment, if you're struggling in any way, please call us. We will help you. Also, this week, the county has added a way for folks who are homebound seniors to get the vaccine brought to their home. This is for people who are not already hooked up with a home care agency. So if you are a homebound senior and you would like that service, or if you have a family member that you're concerned about and you think that would be helpful, please call us. We will get you that information and we will help you get yourself vaccinated or your family member vaccinated. And that's it, unless anybody has any questions. Okay.
Very good. Thanks, Ruth.
Yep.
We'll move on to Public Works, Chuck McAuliffe.
Yep, just a couple quick things. Anybody that's been out towards our Donewell on Route 370 in Plainville, seen for the last 3 weeks or so, we've had cranes out there, some big equipment. We're redoing our wells 1 and 2. They were completed today. Everything came up good. So we're in really good shape out there. Our Route 31 pump house that we've been trying to get a roof on. The outfit a couple months ago came and they put the roof on and they weren't able to finish it. They finished up today and the building looks much better than I thought it would. They're putting steel siding on it, and that's a nice neighborhood up there. And I wasn't sure how well it was going to come out. It was our only option how to repair that, but they did a great job on it. Looks really nice. We're happy with that. Brush pickup will start April 5th. So we're getting closer to the summer. We're switching from hopefully we won't be doing any more plowing. Yeah, I know. We're kind of switching over to our summer stuff. I got to tell you, we got into some of the parks here this week. The highway went over and some were pretty incredible. I mean, there's dirty diapers and there's all kinds of stuff that was just thrown in corners and Mercer Park was just a mess. We got some barrels in there early, but some of the mess that people left in the parks this year was just much worse than normal. But we're getting started on the parks, get that opened up again. And other than that, unless there's questions, we're all set.
All righty. No questions. We'll move on to the police department. Lieutenant Lockwood. Nice to have you on board.
Thanks for having me. Yeah, I'm all set with the agenda. And if anybody has any questions about the reforms or everything, I can ask them when we go on new business.
I just wanted to, I had an item that I saved for now because I didn't know if you knew it or going to mention it, but Perma told us the other day when we met with them about our compensation insurance plan, that we won a NYSA COP Pioneer Award for exceptional creativity and transformative approaches to address challenges and produce a positive impact on the safety and health of your employees. And there were several factors, but the big one was the implementation of the Lexipol policy manual and utilization of the vest grant program to convert officers to outer vest carriers in an effort to reduce lower back injuries. So hats off to the police department for taking an extra step for our employees. And you won an award from NYSA COP, whatever that stands for, New York State, something, I'm sure. And it's always nice to, when you're talking to somebody outside our village stuff, that when they look at our people and think we do a pretty good job. So we think you do, and it's nice to hear other people think so. So hats off, Lieutenant. Nice job.
Thank you. We appreciate that, Mayor.
Okay. All right. Move on to pending business. WEP proposal. I've not heard anything new from WEP as far as us waiting till the end of the budget year to convert our sewers over to the county, control of them. And item B is water rates. Is that something you're going to put on the agenda for next meeting, Bruce, or?
Me?
Yes, you're the
No.
only Bruce in our group.
No, I'm not gonna put it on. I'm not gonna, I've put the rates out there. It's now discussion and the board needs to decide action.
All right.
I don't know what more you want me to do.
No, we'll have to come up with an agenda item for the first meeting in April and get the ball rolling. And everybody's had a chance to review what Bruce has presented. And I'm guessing by his reaction, nobody has made a comment to him on how you feel about it. So please do ask a question, make a comment, and then he can we'll come up with an agenda item and get that taken care of. Okay, we'll move on to new business. Item A, and we got a motion to approve the Onondaga County Police Reform and Reinvention Collaborative Plan. And we'll submit the plan and certification form to the Director of the New York State Division of Budget no later than March 26th. I will read a resolution that the chief gave me for this, and I will ask somebody to make a motion to accept it and second it, and we'll put it on the record. Whereas the Village of Baldwinsville is required by Governor Andrew Cuomo's Executive Order 203, dated June 12, 2020, to complete and certify that the Village of Baldwinsville has performed a comprehensive review of its current police force, deployments, strategies, policies, procedures, practices, and developed a plan attached hereto to improve such deployments, strategies, policies, procedures, and practice the plan. Resolved that the village board approve the Onondaga County Police Reform and Reinvention Collaborative Plan and shall submit the plan and certification form to the Director of the New York State Division of the Budget no later than March 26, 2021. Can I get a motion to accept that resolution?
Moved.
Second it.
Ruth and Bruce. And this is what we're approving here is the county part of the plan, which was put together working with the DA and all the agencies in the county for a general county plan, and we have a separate one too. So we now have a motion and a second. Any questions? If you've seen it, it's a very thick document. All right, we have a motion and a second. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? That's accepted. And can I get I'll read this resolution which is the Baldwinsville part of the reform plan. Whereas the Village of Baldwinsville is required by Governor Andrew Cuomo's Executive Order 203, dated June 12, 2020, to complete and certify the Village of Baldwinsville has performed a comprehensive review of its current police force, deployments, strategies, policies, procedures, and practices, and developed a plan attached herein to improve such deployment strategies, policies, procedures, and practices in the plan. Resolved that the village board adopts the Village of Baldwinsville Police Reform and Reinvention Collaborative Plan and shall submit the plan and certification form to the Director of the New York State Division of the Budget no later than March 26, 2021. Can I get a motion?
Motion.
Mike?
Second.
Andy, second. This is the specific one where the chief, the lieutenant, and trustee Shepherd did some work on this. I know the chief did a lot, but met with people from the village to discuss concerns they might have that we could address. And I would say that in talking to the chief, that most of the items that were listed to be considered as far as under the reform part of it, we've already done. You know, the use of force policy that the state wanted everybody to enact one in each department, we already have one. A lot of those kind of things have already been in place. We've been a community police force since early 70. So a lot of the types of things that they're advocating for, we've been doing it for a long time. So it helped make it easier for the committee to put this together, and they did a great job. So we have a motion and a second. Any other questions? All in favor? Aye. Opposed?
Aye.
Carried. All right, so that's item A and B. Item C is the Village of Baldwinsville Pandemic Operation Plan. I have a motion very similar to the ones we just read, and this was a plan put together. The governor said every municipality will have a pandemic operating plan. Very similar to what we did a year ago when it first started, and only essential workers were supposed to be in the office or in the shop or whatever. All of our people reacted, did a great job, and we've just put it down on paper what we did. And we'll basically do is just a couple small changes, and it's the same plan. So whereas the Village of Baldwinsville is required by Governor Cuomo to complete a pandemic operations plan for operation under a future pandemic, be it resolved that the Village of Baldwinsville adopts the pandemic operation plan as presented to both unions in the village and will be in effect by April 1st, 2021. Can I get a motion to approve that?
I'll
Andy?
second the motion for discussion.
Okay.
I noticed that in the plan, there's no backup for the mayor. And I would suggest that maybe you put the mayor and or his designee, so that if our mayor were to become ill, caught up in a pandemic, he would have the power to appoint one of the other trustees who may be healthy to step in.
Okay, good idea.
Well, we do have a deputy mayor.
I know, but I could be sick too. The designee allows it to be any one of the board that he could put in there.
Okay. I'll add that. We'll approve this with the understanding that I will add that to the plan before it's officially submitted. It was sent in to both unions because that was what Cuomo wanted us to do. The unions were supposed to look at it, understand that their people were the ones, bigger number of people to be affected. We got, so far, I haven't gotten any response from either union. So I'm saying their silence is approval. So we have a motion and a second. That was a good question, Bruce. Good idea. Anybody else? Comments? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Carried.
Dick, would you send me that resolution that you just read? I didn't have that.
I will. Yep. Item D, discussion possible action regarding the Canton Street Bridge located over the New York State Thruway. This is, most of you are probably familiar with that bridge. It's in terrible shape. It's not going to last much longer. The Thruway Authority is trying to decide whether to just get rid of it, tear it down, shut off the road coming from both directions, and not replace the bridge. The town of Van Buren and others have passed resolutions to send on to Matt Driscoll and company to say we do not support the removal of the bridge. That if there's safety factors, I mean, the fire station is just down the road on the Camilla side of the Thruway. If there was a fire in the first house going up the hill, they'd have to go all the way around over to Van Buren Road and come up. And I can't imagine coming down that hill in the wintertime and having to stop and not having, now you can keep on going over the bridge. Well, if now there's a barrier there, that would be brutal. And it separates neighborhoods. We did talk to John Mannion about this yesterday. He sent in his letter of support for replacing the bridge. It seems like everybody locally, the county, the town of Camillus, have all joined the bandwagon. And I thought, if we approve it tonight, I'll send a letter saying that we support replacing and not removing the bridge. So if anybody would like to make a motion or have a discussion on that, I'm here for it. But most of you have been around here a long time, probably have taken that road.
I'd be willing to make a motion that we pass a resolution in support of replacement of the bridge and in opposition to the removal of it. Because heck, I'm sure Ruth, several of our Canton Woods people travel that route just to get to the senior center. Yep. Part of our community's on the other side of the bridge.
Yeah. All right, we have a motion. Anybody second? Andy? Any other discussion? And I'll just send a letter that we voted as Bruce said, and it just be like 2 sentences. Any other discussion? All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Okay. Oh, item E. Can I get, and this is a discussion motion to establish a stand-in rate for the water operators in Chuck's absence while he's out of work for a couple of weeks and somebody has to actually do his work, that they would at least get a higher rate while they're doing Chuck's job. That makes sense.
Part of the thing you might want to mention, Dick, is they'll be on call 24 hours a day. That's part of the issue here.
Right. Okay. Yes. So the person that replaces Chuck and is his stand-in will have the SCADA emergency system. And if 3 o'clock in the morning, if something goes off and one of the water pumps isn't working, that person will then have to start making some phone calls and getting people out. And we are expecting more of them during that time, and it's a consideration to give them a higher rate to be determined. We still have a few days to figure that out, but this would allow us to do that. So do we have a motion? Did you make a motion, Bruce?
I will.
Okay.
I so move.
All right. We have a second. Any other discussion? It was Ruth Seco on the second.
Are you going to be determining that rate, working with Chuck? How's that process going to get taken care of in time?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
I'll talk to Chuck maybe tomorrow. I'll try not to call him when he's cooking dinner.
That would be good.
I have a habit of calling Chuck and Bruce when they're in the middle of getting dinner ready. I don't like to call Chuck always during the day when he's working because I know he's busy. And I know Bruce rides a bike, so he might not be home until later. So, all right, we have a motion and a second. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? That's carried. Item F. Can I get a motion to approve the purchase of a new Caterpillar for a Caterpillar is a heavy equipment piece for $139,800. And this is a budgeted item,
$804.
$804. Get that right. Can I get a motion?
Moved.
Second from Andy. Any other discussion? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Carried. Item G. Can we get a motion to establish April 12th for bid openings for the electrical work at Canton Woods Water Department?
I'll make that motion.
Right. Can we get a second? Andy? With a second? Chuck has reported earlier that the Stone wells the work is all done. So now we're moving over to Canton Street. And hopefully it won't be too awful long. We'll be able to stand there and say our water service everything is basically brand new. And that's great. So thank you, Chuck, again for.
No problem. Glad to do it.
All right, we have a motion and a second. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Carried. All right. Before we move into executive session, anything else? Any other business of the village that we need to discuss? Do we need Lieutenant Lockwood to stick around?
If Lieutenant Lockwood looks like he's in the police department, as long as he's in a secure location, he can listen in.
He's very secure.
Well, I mean, from other people listening.
Yes, okay. All right, so what we'll do is those of you who are going to be in executive session, stick around. I'll shut off the recording and we'll go in executive session. Can I get a motion to move into executive session? Seco, second from Megan. All in favor? Aye. Opposed, carried, no action anticipated. See you in April.
Good night.